Hi, guys, it's Dr. Sadaf, and I would love for you to like and share this podcast and make sure you leave me a review. I'd love those 5 stars. So please, when you send me a review, please make sure to put the 5 stars in and to share the episode with somebody that you know that could really use it. And I would absolutely appreciate it. Also, if you're looking to schedule an appointment with me, make sure you go to my email and put your name on the email list. You will be the first to know when I open up my office in spring of 2024. It's drsadaf.com. And last but definitely not the least, September 16th to the 23rd, 2024, I will be hosting a retreat with Dr. Basma Faris in Morocco. You will be getting yoga and coaching, and we'll be doing excursions and cooking and spa and hammam and all of that great stuff along with meditation. So make sure you don't miss out. Spots are limited. So go to the link in my bio in both Instagram and TikTok to make sure you register. Enjoy the show. I am an American board certified OBGYN, a mom, a Muslim, and I'm talking about sex. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast. Welcome to the Muslim Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sadaf Lodi, and this episode is everything you need to know about life coaching and how to get unstuck in your own mindset. So before I get into it, the first thing I want to make very clear is that I am definitely not giving any type of medical advice. So if you have any questions about your health, please speak with your healthcare provider, and definitely not giving any advice about religion. So if you have any questions about your religion, please speak with your friendly neighborhood religious leader. This is the Muslim Sex Podcast. I just happen to be a Muslim woman that talks about sex. So on this episode today, I'm very happy to bring with me Ms. Shazia Imam. And Shazia is a life coach that works with professional women. So Shazia, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Shazia Imam. I'm also known as the Life Engineer. I'm a certified life coach, been coaching for about a decade. I spent 2 decades in corporate America doing the thing and made this big move. And now I work with women to really find that place where you can feel fulfilled, happy, and whole. You might be doing all the things on the outside, but are you really feeling fulfilled and whole? That's what I love focusing on. And you can also find me at my podcast, Feminine and Fulfilled.
All right. Awesome. So Shazia, let's dive into this. So you said you speak with a lot of professional women, and, really doesn't matter if they're Muslim or not, but just professional women, and help them find their own, wholeness. So tell me how you go about doing that.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've seen a lot in my work is that I'm around a lot of powerhouses. So women who are really powerful, they're leaders in their industry. They are doing the thing, they're crushing it. And yet there's something missing. And there's this feeling of like, gosh, I can't tell anybody this. I'm the person everybody comes to. I'm the one that people come to ask for advice. I'm the one who has it all together. But inside, I'm dying. I mean, really, truly, for being very honest, women are really struggling inside, because when they put their head on the pillow at the end of the night, it's not that feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment that many of us want, but we don't talk about it. And for these women especially, where are they going to talk about it? And so what I find is that these women end up being the ones who silently suffer. And I'm using these strong words because, again, nobody would want to use these words, but silently suffering in and behind all of their achievements, their accolades, their, the way that they show up. But it's usually just calling for something deeper. And so I love to go to that place. I love to find out, okay, well, let's just bring that to the forefront. Let's take away any shame around that, and let's start going deeper, and let's start talking about the things that maybe there was never an opportunity to even talk about. There was never an opportunity to be expressed because it was always the go, 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 the do, do, do. And if we want to really simplify it, it's the very much of being in your masculine and not really allowing that feminine to come through. And we're talking about energy here, not about like who's the dainty girl, but really that feminine energy.
Yeah, I'd love for you to go a little bit more deeper into the feminine energy. So when you speak about feminine energy, what exactly are you talking about?
Yeah. When we're talking about the feminine energy, the best way to describe it is really the way that we look at Mother Nature. Mother Nature has seasons. So, whether you're looking at the actual physical seasons, I'm just looking outside my window right now, or you're looking at the seasons of maybe a tree, the way that it grows, or maybe the seasons, the cycles of the moon. These are things that we see and they're representative of the feminine. The feminine is very cyclical. Whereas the masculine, I always like to talk about both because it really creates a picture. When you're talking about the feminine, the masculine, and you juxtapose the two, the masculine is very direct. Imagine a bow and arrow, and you're looking to hit a target. That's the masculine. That's the society that we live in. We live in a very masculine society where it's like, here's the goal, and here's how we hit the goal. Great. We know how to do that. We know how to hit targets. We know how to get good grades. We know how to achieve. That's what we're taught from the moment that we enter into school. However, the feminine, when we're talking about a cycle, we're not talking about something direct and straight. We're talking about something circular. We're talking about something that moves and flows and is not the same all the time. And there's actually no target to hit per se. It doesn't mean that you can't achieve, but it's not in the same paradigm. So when we talk about the feminine energy, if you start to think of your life more as a cyclical nature, it gives space for the cyclical nature of our feelings, the cyclical nature of the various life events in our life. It gives space for understanding that you don't have to be the same way every single day. You don't have to be doing the same thing. You don't have to wake up and do the same thing and have that same routine, no matter what the society tells you. Who wants to do that? We want that space. We need that space. We actually need white space rather than just that go, go, go. And so the feminine allows for that. And it also allows for that flow, for that trust. And for anybody who is a person of faith, or if you believe in anything beyond yourself, that might be divinely fashioning the world that we live in, the universe that we live in, it allows you to be in a place of trust, to receive, and to move and flow in the way that allows you to be open to what's possible rather simply than saying, well, I'm going to create my own destiny no matter what. Like, that's the masculine way. I'm just going to go because I have to hit the target.
Interesting. So I guess that what I'm trying to see is that, let's take an example. Like, let's say that you're talking to a professional, a woman that perhaps, let's just bring it to, let's say, like their relationship with, let's say, their partner, right? So how would you, let's say that there's a lot of, I don't know, let's say there's a lot of resentment in that relationship. They're in a long-term relationship. There's a lot of resentment because maybe the woman has had to stay home, right? Take care of the kids. Or maybe on the flip side of that coin, maybe she's always had to work and she resents not being able to stay at home with her kids, right? And that she's always had to think of the family and the expenses and this and that instead of being able to do what maybe she wanted. Maybe she wanted to stay at home and nurture the kids, right? Or maybe she wanted to have a career and she wasn't able to. So how do you help women to navigate that scenario?
Yeah, that scenario comes up all the time. I know myself and many women listening right now can probably raise their hand and feel like, oh my gosh, why am I taking care of everything? I know when I speak to women, it feels like no matter whether you're at home or you're working, there is this feeling of, I'm taking care of everything. This load is on me. And what happens in relationships, you use the word resentment, is that resentment can build too. Because your partner might be thinking, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And it's very stereotypically speaking, generally speaking, husbands, male partners, they want to provide. Like, this is like an innate part of their being. I would hear this from my husband. I hear this from other husbands. And so they feel if they go to work, they're doing enough. As women, generally speaking, we not only can work, but we're also raising the kids, taking care of family members, including extended family, hosting the parties, volunteering. Oh, and by the way, at work, doing a phenomenal job. We're doing all of those things. We're playing all of these roles and not getting acknowledged for it, just being expected to do it. And then on top of that, the further expectation that we should look beautiful. You know, I say smiling face, skinny waist. This is the expectation on so many women, and more and more and more with the advent of social media and all of the external pressures that are there as well. So, what happens to women over time is that, and this is what I see over and over again, is that the resentment grows so strong that it's almost as though an armor can be built. If you're not careful, an armor can be built and you become hard. You can almost become hard because you're just trying to make it and you're trying to do all of these things. And yet, what is actually attractive is not that. And so we start to see breakdowns in relationships. Let's just be very honest. We start seeing breakdowns. You know, the husband wants to be intimate. The wife is like, I'm tired. And the wife is like, how can you not understand? I'm doing all of these things. And the husband's like, oh, I'm just trying to get with you. And I'm trying to, you know, have this time with you. And then the resentment starts to grow because both people don't feel that their needs are being met. So I am not a marriage coach. Although in my first marriage, I probably should have been with everything I learned. But what I will say is that when these situations happen, it's not doomsday. I believe that there is an opportunity for the change to happen within ourselves. And I don't mean this in a way to say, oh, the woman should take additional responsibility. In fact, what I want to say right now is that women get to take less responsibility. Women get to let go of things. We get to say, okay, I can't take care of everything. Let me do what I have to do. I mean, obviously don't neglect your responsibilities, but you don't have to be everything for everyone all of the time. What if you allowed yourself to not have to be all of that and you focused on yourself? As cliche as that sounds. But when you begin to focus on yourself and you begin to let go, and let's be honest, let go of control. A lot of times we want to do things because we do it well. Who's going to do it better? So then we want to do it. But again, it's this really bad downward spiral. What if instead you let go? You let go of some of those things that you don't have to do. It'll get taken care of. And you allowed yourself to take care of yourself and you allowed yourself to receive. One of the hardest things is for women to receive that I see. What if you allowed yourself to receive support or that care? It starts making this shift, not just in your life, but in your relationship with your partner, your relationship with all the people around you, because you start operating from a different paradigm. So it's not about doing more. It's about doing less. It's about having less responsibility. It's about allowing yourself to receive and trusting that things will be taken care of, that things will be okay. And when you can tap into this part of yourself and start to actually do fun things, actually use your time to do things you enjoy and start enjoying yourself, it is a game changer. And it's a very different paradigm than what we're taught in this society.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I think that, women, and I wonder like how much of it is society and how much of it is that we just put it on ourselves, right? We just feel like we need to do everything all the time and be everything to everyone. I think some of that has to do with upbringing. Maybe it has to do with culture. Maybe some of it has to do with our ego, right? That we feel like we're the only ones that can do things correctly. So I might as well just do it myself.
Yeah.
Maybe it's limited finances, right? Maybe you don't have the luxury of outsourcing, your house cleaning. Maybe it's, I think it's a lot of things. I think that what you bring up is very true. I think that a lot of professional women, specifically, I think they find that they are being pulled in all sorts of directions, and it's hard to find your own grounding. And so I think that definitely, I think coaching has a place for that. Absolutely. Just to help women find themselves and find, look at their values and see what's most important to them, and then focus on those areas that perhaps they've been neglecting, and they
Yeah.
need to focus a little bit more on. Oftentimes you'll see that women, it's at the expense of our own health, right? We're taking care of everyone else, but we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not making the time for exercise. We're not making the time to find out about maybe the next transition. Maybe it's perimenopause. Maybe it's menopause.
Hmm.
What's happening to my body, right? And you just keep going, going, going until finally you hit a wall. So I think
Yeah.
that's important.
And I just, to one of the points that you said, I don't even think it takes resources to do this. It's it's this piece that you're talking about at the end where it's understanding where you're at and making a choice. So let's use the cleaning example because that's a great one. It took me years to get somebody to clean my house until my own mom, and I grew up in a Desi household, an Indian Pakistani household. And my mom said, "Why are you working?" And I said, "But mom, you did everything yourself. You raised us, you had the house clean, you looked great, you threw dinner parties, and you worked." My mom worked full time too. So to me, she epitomized how I should be. And she's like, "Beta, she she said I didn't have the money. I had to work. I had to do that. I didn't want to do that. But you have the means and you have the money." She said, "You think I didn't want somebody to come clean the house? I did. I did. I wish I could have done that. Now you're doing that, so do that." And for me, it was a mindset shift because I had to let go of this notion that I had to do it myself. And look, for somebody who doesn't have the resources to afford to outsource, then the choice becomes, am I okay living in a house that isn't pristine all the time? You have to start looking at the choices that you're making. Do you want a pristine house, but you're feeling this resentment with your partner? Honestly, you have to start asking questions like that because that pristine house is not going to improve your relationship. And when people don't pay attention to it, that is how relationships will break down. But on the flip side, I would say that most people that I speak to, and probably your audience, I'm just making an assumption, likely can, bring somebody in, even, once a month. And that's a choice that maybe somebody has to make. Maybe they don't prioritize bringing in somebody to clean the house. But if you can, and you can move some dollars there and it's going to change your life, then it's worth it. So I don't necessarily think it's purely about resources. I think it's about that choice that you get to make of, what do I prioritize? And do you prioritize yourself? And not just a massage once a month, but what are the things that will truly change your life, change the trajectory of the way that things are going? And that to me is priceless.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that a lot has to do with mindset. I think that, oftentimes we feel stuck in certain situations. And so we have to figure out how to get unstuck. We have to figure out what the challenges are. We have to figure out what's holding us back. Why are we not able to move forward in whatever it is? I think oftentimes our thoughts get in the way, when we're thinking about certain thoughts in a certain way. And then we know that those thoughts are going to cause certain types of feelings, and then those feelings are going to result in action. So if we're thinking that, I'm doing everything all the time, that's going to cause a feeling of resentment, which then is going to have you not want to be intimate with your partner because you're angry and you're
Mhm.
upset. And, you don't want to be intimate when you're angry and upset. I'm wondering how, so say you have a woman, and since this is the Muslim Sex Podcast, I'm wondering how, if you have a woman that is feeling that she just can't connect with her partner anymore, right? And that, let's say that he, wants to be more intimate with her, but she's always rejecting him. How is it that you help women to navigate that situation? Let's say they're in a healthy relationship. Let's not say that it's like, some type of abusive relationship or anything like that. Let's say that these people who came together love each other, and but it's just life and circumstances that have kind of driven them apart from each other, and now they're trying to find ways to reconnect. How would you help a woman navigate that?
Yeah, for me, I always have a woman reconnect with herself. I find that there's this focus, and like you said, if somebody's not in an abusive situation, and it's a natural progression of many long-term relationships where you lose that connection, oftentimes there's a connection that's been lost with self. And I don't know about you, Dr. Sadaf, but for me, when I'm feeling myself, suddenly my relationship looks so much better. When I'm feeling good, when I'm feeling confident, and I'm not looking in the mirror and looking at my body and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm aging. Why do I have lumps everywhere? I'm at this perimenopause stage in my life right now where I'm having these feelings of body image and, what am I doing? And when I'm having those feelings where I'm really feeling hard on myself, I notice that it comes out on my husband. It just does. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. And like, why can't you just understand me? And why can't you love me and hug me? And, I'm over here like, or tornado. And I'm like, why can't you just love me? And he's like, oh my God, like, I don't really want to be around you right now. Versus when I am feeling good about myself. And I'm not trying to oversimplify this, but this is a great experiment to do in your own life, is to see, am I feeling good about myself? Am I feeling connected to myself? When is the last time I did something that lit me up? When's the last time I just laughed? I mean, we can go day after day after day. If you get caught up in the rat race, you can just be caught up and not laugh and not do anything because you're just trying to make it day after day after day. Nobody's going to have an opportunity to connect. And I believe in any relationship, it takes a change from one person. Again, I'm glad that you preface this. It's not an awful relationship or abusive. I believe that in these regular kinds of situations, one person can change and that person can be us. We do drive the energy in the home. I believe women do drive that energy. So when you start connecting back to yourself, your husband's going to start seeing you in a new light too. He's going to be interested, or you might just want him to come with you. Sometimes it's just about getting out of the rut. There's oftentimes a rut, and then we just start seeing the other person that way. We're seeing ourselves in a certain way. It's like when you're really just annoyed with someone and everything they do is annoying to you too. And it's like sometimes you need to shift out of that. Otherwise, you're just going to keep seeing them that way, and they're going to keep seeing you the same way. So go have some fun. Go connect back with yourself.
Yeah, I love that actually, what you just said. I think that I'd have to agree. I think that when you lose the connection with yourself, I think that that's when the problems start to arise, because then you start to project, right? So the problems that there was a saying once when I was in, I don't know, middle school or something like that. It says, oftentimes the problems we see in others are the problems we have in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that, if you find that there's something that they're doing that's so annoying and, whatever, maybe it's something about yourself that you don't like, that you find annoying. And instead of fixing that yourself, you then project onto others the problem that you're seeing, and I think that absolutely when you're in a place where you are upset or annoyed and angry, you're gonna find that same energy come back to you. And I can just tell
Yeah.
you that from my own experience, like when I'm annoyed, then just everybody's annoying. And then my husband's annoying. And then he'll like bring that energy back to me. And I'll be like, well, why aren't you being normal to me? He'll say, well, look at the way you are to me, and it just goes back and forth. So, I mean, I think I, agree 100%. And what were you going to say? You were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can just relate too. It's like we don't even want to be around an annoying person, right? So when we're like irritated, and that's why I think a lot of it comes within ourselves. When we feel good, everything around us suddenly it's like, oh, everything's going great. But when we're feeling crappy, yes, everybody's annoying, nothing's working out. Why don't they understand? I mean, don't we all wish for the man who would just in those moments grab us, hold us tight, kiss our neck, and just say, I love you? That man doesn't exist. Okay.
It's true. He doesn't exist. I agree 100%.
So let's just, find the way for him to actually do that because we're not so irritated and irritable and, all of the things. And so, again, oversimplifying, I think, there's opportunities for men, of course, to fill in and step up. But that's not the conversation today, right? It's about how can we make that change, and so much can just come with simply changing our own environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I agree. I think that it's changing our own perception. And, I'm not sure if you've heard of this book. I'm sure you have. It's called Positive Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And by is it Shirzad Shamini?
Shamani, yeah.
But how he talks about just trying to, I feel like it's almost like letting, he talks about the sage and the saboteur and how, really just leaning into more of that positive energy, and that there's a lesson. And even in the worst case scenario, there's some positive lesson that you can, glean from that. And it's not about, I think, toxic positivity. It's just about changing your own way at basically approaching things that may seem negative at first, right? And then
Yeah.
find the best case scenario in that, and that everything has something in there. And how we talk to ourselves really should be the way that we would talk to, let's say, our 5-year-old self, right? Like, how would
Yeah.
would we be so mean to that person? Would we say that they're, wow, that you're so stupid, you made such a bad mistake, you're so this, you're so that? You would never say that, right? You would be so kind and compassionate to that little child. And so really that's a way that you should be talking more to yourself, and being more kind and thoughtful. And I think that then translates into your own relationship, and then
Yes.
same thing about projecting that same type of energy.
100%. I mean, it's all so related, and I love that you brought him up. I haven't heard his name in such a long time, but it was one of the first things I learned when I started my training, and I loved it because it helped to identify what he, like you said, he calls the saboteurs, and these are the, you know. In a blanket statement, people sometimes refer to it as the inner critic or the self doubt, and it's usually blanketed under this very big term. But I like that he breaks it down to, hypervigilance and perfectionism. And I'm forgetting, it's been actually such a long time, but he has 8 saboteurs or more where you can really start to see, okay, where is the area that I'm being so hard on myself and it's not serving me. And there's another great book that I read more recently called The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control,
Mm.
which was a phenomenal book. And I think it just came out in the last few years. But one of the things that I appreciated most about it was that there's nothing wrong with perfectionism. I tend to attract a lot of perfectionists. Those are probably 90% of the women that I work with. The issue isn't being a perfectionist. In fact, being a perfectionist allows you to do things in excellence. And on one side, women are called perfectionists so much more than men are, right? Men are called leaders and they're doing something in excellence, where women are called perfectionists. So the semantics of it is important to not shame perfectionism. But what I really appreciated about her book was understanding when that perfectionism becomes maladaptive versus adaptive. And maladaptive meaning it starts interfering and causing problems in your life. And this I often see too. And in this conversation we've been having today, that maladaptive perfectionism is having to have that pristine house, having to have every single thing in place to the point that your energy causes problems in the relationship. Nobody wants to be around you because everything's got to be a certain way, versus adaptive perfectionism, where you use it towards doing what you want to do well, but not in a way that's detrimental. And that distinction is really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. When anything that starts to destroy the relationship, right, is not going to be helpful or beneficial to either of the two partners in that relationship, or even in your family, right? Even with your kids, then, nobody wants to be around you, which is never a good scenario, right?
Yeah.
So, why don't you tell us and the listeners out there, they're listening to you and they're like, wow, I would love to work with Shazia. How can I do that? So, how can they follow you? How can they work with you?
Okay, well, there's several ways. The easiest way, and you get a free gift too, is that I actually have something called the 100 Dreams List. So, this is a free gift that I give out. It's a template to actually start writing down your dreams. Because when I'm talking about go out there and have fun, people sometimes don't even know what to do. Even if I were to say that to you now, you might be like, well, maybe you could think of one or two things. But to really start diving into what is it that lights me up to bring you back to life again, grab my template. It's free for you, and you can get that at thelifeengineer.com/dreams. I'd love for you to have that, and then you'll be on my email list. We'll be connected. You can also find me at thelifeengineer.com. That's my website. I'm on Instagram at The Life Engineer. I'm on Facebook at Shazia TLE. And you can listen to my podcast, Feminine and Fulfilled.
Very nice. Very nice. So, and you said that they've been archived. Are you still recording, or are you not recording?
Well, they're not archived. I mean, what's great, about podcasts, they live in perpetuity, but I haven't recorded in a year because, I finally got to a point where I was like, 5 years is plenty, but it's still active on Spotify, Apple, anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can find it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always so much value in listening to people talk about mindset, because I think so much of our lives have to do with mindset and how we see things, and whether or not we feel like we can grow or we're stuck. And I think that obviously, we all know that having a growth mindset is definitely the better of the two mindsets. And I was just talking to somebody today about how, somebody once said that when you start to become comfortable, that's when you're no longer growing, right? It's in that uncomfortable space where you actually learn and you grow and you become a better version of yourself. So I think it's always good to keep learning and growing. And so is there a pearl that you would like to leave our listeners with that they can think about, and, something that you want to make sure that they get from this podcast?
Yeah, pearl that I would leave is that oftentimes the solution that you're looking for in your life, or that secret or that golden key, is within you being you. I don't want to just say within yourself because it sounds cliche. I want you to hear that it is within you being you. The more that you really allow yourself to be you, even in the context of what we talked about. So even if you feel like I'm leaving my family and going and taking some wild and crazy class, well, guess what? The golden key lies in that, because it will bring forth from you who you are. And the greatest liberation, I believe, is to simply be who we were created to be. And we were created in a certain way. You were created in a certain way. I was created in a certain way. So it doesn't serve anybody to just be a piece of you. It serves you and everybody around you to be all of you. And it's a fun journey. So you might as well do it. It's a twofer, it's a win-win.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I think that, when you give yourself permission, I think oftentimes we don't give ourselves that permission, right? We feel, just as you were talking about, just that, that perfectionism, feeling like we have to do everything perfect. But when you give yourself the permission to really just learn about things that you've always wanted to learn about, or do things you've always wanted to do, then that's where you find yourself that you're the happiest. And then if you're happy, right? Isn't that saying, happy wife?
Happy life. Yes. Yes, it's true. At least in our house, it is very true.
Yeah. So, well, all right. Well, thank you so much, Shazia, for coming on and sharing your wisdom about life coaching and all the pearls, and how important it is to be fulfilled and live. And I think, everyone, and I say this too, is that nobody's coming to save us. Right? It's up to us to save us. There's no, like you said, there's no magic key, there's no magic bullet. You have to kind of do the work, and you have to figure out what really inspires you, so that you can be that energy, that light for others. So
yes. Thank you, Dr. Sadaf, for having me on. And we must be kindred spirits, because I just did a post, I don't know, 2 weeks ago that said, that was the first sentence, no one's coming to save us.
No.
So it's true. No one's coming.
That's right. That's right. We have to save ourselves. So, well, I am done here, and it's been real and really intimate. And remember, of course, we didn't talk about medicine, but this isn't meant to be medical advice or even therapy. I mean, if you're looking for a life coach, we have one here, and there's definitely lots of resources out there. So please, check in. If you need a therapist, please go and speak with a therapist. And until next time, this is the Muslim Sex Podcast. So thank you for listening to the podcast, and make sure you leave us a review, share and like the podcast. And if you leave me a review, I'd love to shout you out on social media. So be sure that you share it with all your friends. And thanks for listening.